thank you so much for joining us today. As we begin, can you say a few words about your current role and what you've been up to?
Hi, Misha. Thank you for having me on this. So my current role is VP of Marketing for somewhat startup called AppDome. We do mobile app security, and I say startup because we are still kind of market making. It's a relatively new market, although AppDome has been in business for over 6 years. We have several hundred customers and large brand names. We have about 200 people. So I don't consider that a startup, but it's a startup in fact, in the way that we operate. And we try to be very entrepreneurial in the way that we do marketing and we do sales, because it is a relatively new market.
Mm-hmm. I understand. And then in your role, what kind of marketing functions report to you?
All the marketing functions. So I've got analyst relations. In fact, I'm personally managing analyst relations, press relations. I have growth marketing, which is demand gen and field marketing. So the corporate marketing, demand gen type functions, as well as field marketing around the world. So we have 4 regions.
Mm-hmm.
Also have what we're calling digital ops, which is our marketing automation system, and all the tools that we're using, all the technology, the tech stack that we're using is managed in my organization, and content creation.
I see. I understand. And I noticed in your experience, you had agency experience. You also worked in large organizations. But what was the first entry point? What's the first cybersecurity marketing door that you knocked on?
So for cybersecurity, it was about 6 years ago, and it was a real startup. It was me, myself, and I in marketing. And it was another 2 people in sales. And we really acted, we were the team. We were what you would call in a startup a go-to-market team. So we kind of all wore this multiple hats, all the way from, creating the content, defining the personas that we're going to go after, defining the accounts that we're going to go after. And the company's name was Cloud Security. I'm sorry, Cloud Visory. And they were later bought by FireEye. But the company, it was, I think we were like 10 or 12 people total when I first started. By the time I left there, we were probably at about 25. And I left there because I wanted to do my own agency. So I had several cybersecurity clients, including Cloud Visory, when I started my agency.
So small startup agency. I think IBM was one of the organizations you were at prior to that. So you have a very interesting background, both in terms of scale and scope, but also agency with cybersecurity clients, and now being on the in-house. From that vantage point, what will be your advice for someone who's just getting started, maybe looking to transition from technology marketing to cybersecurity marketing, or maybe even more upstream of that, someone who's just looking at the space, curious about it, and figuring out if how they can make a career out of it? What are the 2 or 3 things in your view they should spend time on?
So I have always, in my career, I've always had my hands on what I call growth marketing. And back in the day, it was called demand gen. And the reason I say that is because demand gen is a multiple, and it requires a lot of different skills. Requires a lot. You have to understand the market and understand, what you're trying to market. You have to understand who you're marketing to. So you have to understand what makes that person that you're marketing to tick. And you also have to understand all the different marketing tactics, such as, whether you're going to do Google ads, you're going to, paid LinkedIn ads, whether you're going to go to events, whether you're going to have webinars. So it kind of forces you to learn a multitude of marketing skills. And there's really no limit. So I've always, in fact, my daughter is actually trying to get into marketing. She is in marketing, and she's asked me a couple of times, do I want to get into cybersecurity? There's no magic about cybersecurity with respect to marketing. Marketing is marketing. It's just a matter of understanding the value proposition and understanding who you're selling to that makes you different and makes you, a cybersecurity professional versus not.
Certainly. No, it makes a lot of sense. And So understanding your ideal customer profile, this understanding the persona, and understanding what you're offering to them makes a lot of sense. But also that the journey, the customer journey, happens over kind of various steps. They from not knowing that people have a problem to being aware that they have a problem, to being put it in very specific terms, to understanding the solution landscape, and then identifying vendors. They're very specific steps, and often you mentioned content. It's whether it's marketing programs or content needs to be almost stage specific. How do you think about that? Figuring out from the universe of your potential clients, from your total addressable market, how to identify people at the various stages of that journey, and how to meet them where they are, and talk to them about using the content, using the tactics that they would accept given the stage of the journey they're at.
So I have a term that we use here, is that we have to be digitally on 24 hours, 24/7. So you have to be everywhere. You cannot, because you don't know, like you said, you don't know what stage of the journey a particular person or an organization is in. So you need to make sure that you have content in the awareness phase. You need to make sure you have content in the education phase. You have to make sure that you've got content when they're actually ready in the purchase phase, and then when they're actually making a decision on the vendor, right? So when you think of that, you have to think about what kind of content will resonate at each one of these stages. So at the awareness stage, you just want to get your brand out there. You just want, you want people to know who you are. At the education phase, you kind of have to educate people. Like you said, they don't even realize that they have a problem. So you have to kind of state the problem and then the answer. And so those are really quick hits, maybe like a one pager, or maybe a short snippet of a video on LinkedIn, or you're on multiple sites where you think your personas are going. For instance, if they're going to dark reading, or if they're going to, DevSecOps magazine, have some piece of content there that will resonate with them, to make them start thinking about, asking themselves questions on, do I really, like, for instance, for mobile app security, do we protect our application that the mobile app that our customers are using? What do we do for that? How do we do that? So putting content in different locations where, you think that they're going to be, or you've done research where you think that they're going to be. And then as they get into your, the purchase cycle, then you start giving them more information that's got more technical detail. And then you give them an ROI statement. You give them, ROI kind of information. And then you give, then hopefully they're on your website and they're actually, making some decision, and you're down into the top 3 vendors that they're looking at, and then you get them engaged with sales. So you offer them a demo, you offer them a free trial. For instance, we have, the 3 call to actions on our website are, see a demo, very quick. We can do a demo in 15 minutes. You can either start a trial on your own, or you can just contact us and talk to somebody directly.
I understand. So it's kind of stage specific. And well, kind of switching gears a little bit, when I think of marketing, cybersecurity marketing in particular, there are no silver bullets. And the best way I came up with is you think of it as a toolbox, and there's a range of tools. Some of them are used more frequently than others, and it changes over time maybe. But also there are certain themes that are playing out. A few years back, this concept of inbound, pioneered by HubSpot, caught everyone's attention. Everything was about inbound. Everyone kind of went into creating content, and that over time, people realized that of thousands of form submits, only very small fraction would convert to actually high-value potential clients. Then people kind of leaned onto large-scale events, whether it's Black Hat or RSA or Gartner, identity and access, and that worked well. And now they're getting so expensive. I've been talking to some of my friends, and I'm shocked at just how expensive those events are, both from the sponsor perspective, but also like the full cost of ownership with travel and just putting the team out there and the booth itself and things like this. Then with COVID, everything went away. Everyone went digital. Everyone went remote, and virtual events, virtual roundtables, webinars was all the rage. So now it seems like everyone is leaning into AI and trying to figure out what it means for marketing from the content generation standpoint and SEO and things like this. So it's almost, there is a tool, but also there are themes that are kind of come and go, and some of the tools remain. But the question is, what's working for you now? What's the most often used tool in your toolbox?
So Misha, every CEO thinks that there's a silver bullet, and that's what they ask you to do. So my challenge, this is at every company I've been at, my challenge has always been, what is that silver bullet? And I always go back and say, there is no silver bullet. Going back to what we just talked about with respect to the stage of where the buyers are, especially because we're early market. Since we're early market, it's an early market, and we are, the thought leaders, and we are actually leading in the market. We can't just pick one thing. So to get the awareness and to get people, in the awareness phase and the education phase, we're using SEO and SEM. So we, hone in. If you look at our website, there's a lot of words on it, but there's a reason why there's a lot of words on it. It's very good for SEO. So if anybody's searching on a specific term, hopefully they come to AppDome. SEM is, paid. So paid Google ads and paid LinkedIn ads. We're using both of those. In LinkedIn, you can target the personas that you're going after. So we happen to go after cyber, which is security. We also go after the developers, so DevOps and DevSecOps. So you can actually target messages towards them. But we're also going to a lot of events, and we saw a lot of success in 2023. It's yes, you said, everybody kind of stopped going because of COVID, but it's almost like everybody's just itching to get out, and people are going to events. Now, will that be the same trend in 2024 and in 2025? I'm not sure, but 2023, they were all of the events that we went to, such as, we went to RSA, and we did go to Black Hat, and we've gone to, and we've been doing Mind the Sec and LATAM and FinTech, Singapore. So we've been all around the world this year. People are going to events. So we will be planning for next year as well. But we also started a webinar series. And so it's almost like there is no silver bullet. You kind of have to be, you have to target people the way they want to consume information. And some people want to consume virtually, some people want to consume physically. And typically the physical, they're usually, they know they have a problem, and they're going to go see who is the vendor that's going to help them solve their problem. Versus people who are just, Googling and they're searching, they're not quite sure that they have a problem. They're just trying to see what's out there. So I don't think there's a silver bullet. And I think we're going to be spending in all of those areas that I just mentioned.
Certainly. Well, I wasn't implying that there was a silver bullet.
Yeah.
The question was which combination of tools you're leaning on more than others. So I completely agree that it's a combination of various sources, and there is no one single tool. And even those kind of change over time. So it's constant tracking and monitoring where people are coming from. But with this in mind, I just had a conversation recently. It seems when we're looking at attribution is fairly easy at the bottom of the funnel, kind of conversations where people type the name of the company in the Google search, go to your website, request a demo, go through a demo, go through a POC, and then become a client. They already identified the need, they selected you, they want to understand the value, they're ready to be sold, and they're ready to deploy and time to value is fast for them.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is that if we think of those stages of customer journey with technology and with the way the life is changing, I guess more and more of those steps are walked in the dark, so to speak. In other words, the person who just showed up on your website requesting a demo may have passed by your booth at RSA a year ago, maybe they listened to a presentation by your chief evangelist, didn't stop by, didn't leave a card, but the curiosity was picked at the time. Then they had a conversation with a colleague over coffee as a sidebar conversation at Black Hat a few months later. Then they went to an association or there was a private Slack for CISO, for cybersecurity executives, and there was Ask Me Anything, and other CISO gave raving reviews, and there was no way for cybersecurity provider, for the vendor, to be part of those conversations. There's no attribution. You'll often will only see that this person is coming through Google, so we kind of assume, well, that's the channel that we need to double down on, even though a lot of different touch points happened outside of attribution, outside of our knowing it, and outside of our impact. So, and I wonder, so many marketers are kind of data driven, and rightfully so, but do we just focus our data gathering and analytics at the later stages of the funnel, where the sales cycles are short and attribution is fairly straightforward, and we just accept the fact that for upstream, attribution is fuzzy or non-existent? Also, once it's multi-touch, it's how do you assign weights? Is stopping by the booth more important than having coffee with a colleague? And also time, right? So if something happened I don't even remember the conversations I had 3 years ago, right? So how do you think about being data-driven, but still acknowledging accepting the fact that some of the events that are relevant to marketing, to demand generation, happen outside of our reach?
I think the more mature marketer is going to understand exactly what you just said. And so we are data driven, but we also acknowledge the fact that brand, because a lot of what you said is just building the brand, right? It's the touch points are really building the brand, and it's very difficult to attribute and have data that says, okay, if you spend this much money in this type of tactic, you're going to get more brand recognition. It's very difficult to measure that. Luckily, our CEO actually acknowledges that and understands that. So we while we are data driven, and while we are measuring, and in fact, I was going to tell you a little story about what we experienced this year. We are measuring what we are getting from every single tactic and how much money we're putting in. We're not blind to the fact that we still need to spend X percentage doing things that are not necessarily measurable, but we know that we're getting brand attribution of some sort. So for instance, this year, while the events were are expensive, like you said, they're getting a lot more expensive, but we're just coming off of COVID. I believe we've received most of the quickest deals are the ones that we have met at a show. And we've actually had a conversation with them. They saw our product demos very well. So we have that advantage, but they saw our demo and they saw how easy it was to implement. And then basically, if they have the need in the budget, they know that, okay, this is a vendor that needs to be, that we need to look at. And then they get serious with this. But that's all been, we've done a lot. I'm going to say more than half of our pipeline this year that we generated was from shows. Interesting.
That's I think it's amazing, because oftentimes a show is actually like the first step when, to your point, it's branding, and then things take months, if not years, to go from, well, I've seen you around, you have staying power, I've heard about your product from multiple sources, I'm ready to talk to you. It's so for someone to go from met for the first time to being client in a short order within a year, it's pretty phenomenal. And I think it goes to the credit goes to your messaging and the product, that it engages people in a way that helps the conversion in such quick order.
Yeah. Yes.
And I'm just curious. So you mentioned different programs, different tactics. You look at ROI for programs that are kind of more upstream, the branding exercises and things like this, where the sales cycles are longer. Do you value, for example, this initiative A generated 3 opportunities at the top of the funnel. Do you value them? Do you assign a certain dollar amount to those? Meaning our average deal size is X. Top of the funnel deals close at 35% or whatever the percentage is. So you can come up with an estimated value of an opportunity at the top of the funnel, and you use that to measure programs and campaigns that are kind of upstream, they're top of funnel campaigns.
Yeah, that's exactly how we do it. Yeah, we assign an average selling price to every opportunity that comes in. So regardless of the channel that it comes in.
Interesting.
So
it's probably by company size and industry and kind of.
Well, I mean, the way our pricing is, right? We're protecting a mobile app. It doesn't matter the size of your company. It doesn't matter. It's basically by the app. So, if you're a huge bank and you've got 15 apps, it's 15 times X. And then within the app, it's how many protections, you've got a bare minimum state of protections that you want to protect against, different types of malware or fraud or cheat or bot. And, there's a bare minimum. So we basically, the ASP is the bare minimum price. And then from there, it can only go up. So I think we take a very conservative view in our pipeline and hope, not hope. And then as we get down into the pipeline or the sales cycle, then the price you would think would naturally go up because they see the value in having more protections, or they're going to maybe only start out with one app, but then they're going to add a second app when they see that this app, once you see that the app is working and that, how easy it is, you've got other apps that you need to protect. So it's natural that the land and expand is going to be pretty quick.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so it's by app, not by device. Makes a lot of sense.
Correct.
So I know we're coming up on time, Nita, and I just want to ask you about your views on the future. And I promise we're not going to hold you to that. Even though we may schedule a touch-up interview 1 year from now just to see how everything panned out. But 12 months from now, if you had a crystal ball and you can see what's going to happen, cybersecurity marketers will be thinking about, excited about, concerned about what 2-3 themes or technologies or developments will be in the headlines in 12 months' time, you think?
That's a tough question. But personally, since I've only been with AppDome for 1 year, I mean, every day there's a new threat. There's several new threats almost daily, right? So from a career standpoint and a marketer perspective and even a business standpoint, cybersecurity is not going away. The market's only going to get larger. If a market gets larger, there's more companies entering into the market. There's more need for marketers, right? So my advice has been, even to both of my kids, I have one engineer and one marketer, is cybersecurity. I mean, it's cybersecurity and AI are the buzzwords, right? But to me, cybersecurity is a lot more, I don't know, it feels a little bit more mature and secure. AI is very exciting, but it's still very unknown. I think that cybersecurity, you can't go wrong in establishing a career. And so from a tech stack perspective, I think we're looking at, how can you find, what vendors can you work with that can help find more intent buyers, more buyers with more intent. And especially because we are market making, I'm looking, next year, I would hope that this year we've spent the year market making and getting our name out there. Next year, we can go find buyers that are a little bit more educated and that have an intent to buy.
Makes sense. So I hope we'll get a chance to talk again in 1 year's time. We'll see how those themes will play out. But meanwhile, Nita, thank you so much for your time. This was lots of fun. And what's the best way to connect? What's the best way for people to find you?
You can find me on my LinkedIn, Nita Patel. I work at AppDome. Yep.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.